What's up, everybody? Welcome. It's your girl, Keita, the host for this evening, and you are tuning in to Becoming a Better You, presented by the Bryson Foundation, which I am also the founder of. So let's get into it. Before we get to talking and getting all deep and emotional, I need you to do me a favor. And I'm sure you already know what that favor is. I need you to go ahead, go on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and follow the Bryson Harmon Foundation right now. I need you to share. I need you to tell your friends. I need you to comment. Let me know you here. Give our page some interaction, okay? Go ahead and do that. Now, if you're done, I need you to go ahead and get your drinks, get your popcorn, get your tea, because it's about to get real. It's about to get real. And we're going to be as transparent as we can be. Okay? So, for those who are new here and some of my return followers, hello. I started the Bryson Harmon Foundation back in 2017 after my son, Bryson, was murdered by his father. I wanted it to be just a place where I could freely talk about the grief that I was experiencing. And I wanted to be able to help other mothers who were possibly going through the same thing. And we did some lives and it did pretty good on social media. I'm not going to lie about that. However, the space that I was in, I was still kind of going through the story. So the possibility of being as transparent as I wanted to be was legally not I wasn't able to do. And so along with that and not being completely healed myself, I had to put that on pause. And now I feel as if God has opened up the time and the space and given me the strength and the courage to start again. And so now we're rebranding and we're now a nonprofit organization, and we are looking to help not just mothers, but anyone who has suffered from childhood trauma, mommy issues, daddy issues, low self-esteem, whatever it may be. It's going to be covered here and we're going to get some healing. Okay. So let me just start this off by saying, I'm just a girl from the west side of Chicago. All my Chicagoans, if you want to put it in the comment, what side you from, okay? Born and raised in the church, very traditional church, Pentecostal Apostolic. If you don't know what that is, I need you to go ahead and Google Sanctified Church, because that's exactly what it was. Didn't really have a lot of freedoms. And I did not grow up with my father in the house. My parents had been divorced since I think they were separated when I was 3 and then divorced at the age of 7. So I did not have a relationship with him. And what little of a relationship we had was, yeah, it was ghetto. It was ghetto. And so, but we'll get into that in another episode. So I went through the normal transition that most girls do. I am a victim of SA, which is sexual assault, but we have to be careful what we say. And I've been in abusive situations. I've been manipulated into things. My low self-esteem was loud, honey. It was loud. Okay. And so a lot of times in our community, I feel like, and that's the Black community, I feel like women, the church community, everything in general, we tend to just bottle stuff up and not really say what it is and deal with the issue. And I feel like a lot of times, even the older people around us, even if they have an inkling, because this has happened before, I'm not the first girl to be brought up without a father. And so we know what kind of consequences they can have and what kind of obstacles can come up in that child's life. And I feel like a lot of older people do not harp in to try to save that person from a whole lot of heartache. but that's also for another story. We got to get better, people. Each one reach one. Okay. Fast forward, in 2016, I met a man that I worked with named Brandon. Okay. And me and Brandon, we was good at the time. What I thought love was, that's what that relationship was. It was the longest relationship I had been with. I had had 3 children prior to meeting him by someone else. And so, he was all the charm. Okay. I was beautiful every hour of the day. Okay. Would break his neck if I ever said I wasn't going to talk to him no more. Now, healed Keita understands that that is manipulation. Okay. That is toxic. That is not love. Okay. Ladies out there, that's not love, honey. If he threatens to himself because you don't want to be with him, that's not love. It's manipulation. And they know you're gonna fall for it every time. And at this time, like I said, my low self-esteem was loud. Okay. And just know that if you do suffer from this, men can, it's like they got a sense for it. They can smell that. They know when you don't have value in yourself. Okay. And they'll leech on to you because you'll give your all and they don't have to give anything. So I became pregnant, and in April of 2016 I gave birth to my son, Bryson Lee Michael Holman. um, and our relationship was pretty decent. He was there the whole time. I had no reason to believe that any of what ended up coming out was true because he had so much freedom. We spent nights together, we stayed on the phone together all night. We went out. I posted him on my social media. He met my friends. He went to church with me. He did not act like a person who was still married or attached to someone. And if I got any other wives out here, I'm a wife myself. Uh, Sir Harry is not out all night, and I don't know where he's at. After our baby was born, I'm trying to like give you a quick recap. After the baby was born, um, I had some errands I needed to run. Like I had literally started back working. My babysitter, who's my grandma at the time, she was out of town with her church. And so my best friend had opted in to take care of the baby for me for one day. I just needed the one day. But when Brandon found out about this, he was like, "No, I got him. That's my son. I don't know her, yada, yada." And so I allowed him to keep the baby that night. So this is June the 3rd. June the 3rd evening, I met up with him after a long day of work. I was super tired because my godmom watched the baby while I was at work. So I had to go pick him up. And at the time, I had a job where I had to drive all day. So I was just worn out. And so we met up. He wanted to go out to dinner. We went out to dinner. And I was just so tired. Even sitting at the table, when I think about it now, like I couldn't even give Bryson a bottle. And so he was getting a lot of attention at the restaurant because he was feeding the baby and burping the baby. And people was like, "Oh, he's such a good dad." And. And so we left there and we went back to my house, and he wanted me to pack a bag for Bryson in case his parents wanted to take him to church. So let me put this in there, is that he had told me that his parents knew about the baby and that they wanted to meet the baby. So all of this was perfect, that I needed a babysitter because this was his opportunity to take the baby for the night. And so we talked a little while, and my eyes were getting red. And I walked him to the car, and he told me that he loved me. He gave me a long, passionate kiss, and he went on about his way. So he called me the night to let me know that he had made it home. And I heard Bryson in the background. So I was giving him like advice on how to get him sleep and all that other stuff. And it was fine. I went to sleep. The next morning I woke up, he was calling just to see how did I sleep. Normal activity. Nothing about this is out of the normal, okay? And so he's like, oh, telling me about how Bryson kept him up all night and he pooped on him. And so we was just laughing and joking about that. And he asked me what I had to do for the day. I told him, and I went on to run my errands. While running my errands, he's calling, he's texting. Okay. He's like, hey, he's been asleep for a long time. Should I wake him up? Now, at this point, I'm not really like worried because he had other children. And I knew for a fact that he had watched those children by himself. So um, I was kind of like taken back at why he was so worried about feeding times. But hey, Bryson was still a newborn, so I get it. So we had a couple of conversations. I told him what to do. I said, well, if you want to wake him up, just wake him up. So he told me he had picked Bryson up and Bryson was wiggling around. So he's going to go ahead and feed him. Fine. We get off the phone. I received this long text. And the text is like, I love you and my son. And I never want anything to happen on my watch. And have a good day. I'll see you later. Now, at this point, I'm like, you kind of bugging me. I don't know. Y'all mothers, like, you ever let somebody watch your kid and they call you and text you all day and you like, I could have just kept the kid if he was going to call me and text me all day. So I had decided at that moment, like, okay, Bryson is not spending the weekend. I'm just going to go get my son because you're freaking me out. Okay. So I was supposed to meet a friend for lunch, and I was headed to go meet them. And I get a call from Brandon again, and he's like, just as calm. I'm going to try to repeat the sound of his voice because it was like, hey, where you at? I had to call the paramedics because Bryson isn't breathing. Now I'm on the other line. Like, what? Like, he not breathing? Like, what do you mean? Like, I'm on my way. Forget whatever plans I got. I'm on my way. And so just so happened at the same time, Bryson's godfather, which was Brandon's cousin, was calling at the same time. So I tell him what Brandon just told me. He's like, where are you at? I tell him where I'm at. He happened to be getting off of work right there. So he was like, pick me up because I'm frantic. Okay. So I pick him up and he's like, nah, this not true. Like, let's just get there and see what's going on. I call my mom and I'm barely, she can barely understand what I'm saying because I'm like, and mom, and you, and he said, and she's like, Keita, calm down. Like, just call me when you get there. I can barely make it on the expressway. Okay. So I'm trying to get to his parents' house, and Bryson's goddad is trying to hold the steering wheel because I'm crying and I'm just talking out loud, trying to think of like, what hospital is he at? Well, I just want my baby to be okay. I had never experienced an emergency with my children to that extent. I get there, I'm pulling up on the grass, okay? And unbeknownst to me, Brandon is not there. Neither is my baby. I am being approached by homicide detectives. And I'm not even like understanding what homicide means at the moment. Like, I know what it means, but in that moment, I could not put two and two together. But I see tape and I see some of Brandon's family members, his brother that used to work with us. I see him standing outside. And I was approached by another family member who was highly upset that there were a lot of detectives and stuff at the house. And he's like, there was no baby here. And I started describing to the detective Bryson's baby bag, his car seat, what room Brandon said he was in. And as I'm describing this, the other police officers are walking out with Bryson's stuff, exactly what I described. So I'm asking, what is going on with my son? Where is my baby? And they're like, ma'am, we're going to get to that. Just have a seat for us real quick. And I know they wasn't trying to be rude, but they was trying to get everything that they needed to get. Later, I will know why they were adamant on getting what they needed to get. And so eventually I'm calling around. I'm calling my mom. I'm letting her know, like, Mom, they said he did. And, I'm calling my cousins that are out of town so they can reach my granny. They're crying on the phone, screaming and hollering. My best friend is, she's going to meet me out here so she can pick up my car because nobody wants me to drive. Um, and everybody that is standing outside just kind of has this ghost look on their face. And so we end up going to the station, and they're questioning me. They're asking me, how did he get the baby? Blah, blah, blah. I'm pulling up text messages on my phone, like trying to prove that we have been in this relationship for 3 years and we wasn't arguing. We wasn't upset with each other. Like nothing was wrong with Bryson, yada, yada, yada. And at the same time, I keep asking them the same question, like, is my son deceased? And they keep giving me the same answer, but it's like I needed to keep hearing it, even though it was never processing with me at the time. And so they let me know that they had arrested Brandon and they just need to get to the bottom of what happened, even though they knew what happened. And so my some other family members of mine had showed up. My aunt at the time, my mom. I had a male best friend. Him and his wife came, and the police was like, "Hey, we're gonna let each one of them come back and talk to you and try to get you calm because I'm not calm. Like every 2 seconds, I'm breaking down." Okay, and so um, everybody's crying with me. Eventually, the detective's like, "Hey, I think we got all we need for today. We're going to let you go home, but you got to promise us that you'll come back tomorrow for some more questions and we'll have an answer for you." And so I'm like, okay, all right. Now, this is all in the same day, y'all. I ain't even had no time to myself to sit down and be like, my son is dead and his daddy is nowhere to be found. And my son was with his daddy. And so I go to my mom's house because I'm no good. I can't go home. Good thing this was a weekend and my other kids were with their side of the family. My mom made a few phone calls to see if they would be willing to keep the kids for a little while. They agreed. And I could not stop crying. I literally opened up a bottle of 1800 and drank it to myself. And long as I was drinking, I was laughing, I was talking, I was able to, talk about like labor and delivery, and nobody judged me in that moment. I was surrounded by the same 4 people this entire time. My aunt, my 2 best friends, and my mom. Nobody was like, "Come on, you saved, don't drink." They let me just express however I needed to express. And so later on that evening, I had decided to post it on social media that Bryson had passed because my whole pregnancy was on social media. Like, come on, y'all. Y'all know. Y'all got friends on Facebook right now. You are somebody's child, TT, and you have never met that child a day in your life. And so my phone started blowing up. People asking, what happened? How did he die? All, just unnecessary questions. And so I did not sleep that night. I was up tossing and turning. I could hear a baby screaming, and I had no details of what had actually happened. So the fact that my brain went straight to a baby screaming and crying is amazing to me. We woke up the next day. We went back to the police station, and there is where they let me know that they were charging Brandon with murder. We also found out a little bit more information that Bryson, when Brandon called the paramedics, was in full rigor mortis. So people who don't know what that is, that means in order for you to be in full rigor mortis, I think it has to be, you have to be dead for at least like 8 hours. So he was already like stiff as a board when the paramedic got there. So the paramedic let them know it was foul play in this phone call. So that's how we got homicide detectives and all of that. Um, and so they had took me into another room, and the lady was asking me, like, did Bryson have any bruises? And I let her know, like, he had a little scratch right here because he used to scratch himself all the time. And again, I'm answering all these questions and not really processing that my son is gone. Like, you ever feel like you're just living? Like, you're not in the moment. You're just kind of going through the motions of everything. That's how it felt. Like, I'm not really here. And though I can hear and I can respond to everything that's going on, my mind is completely somewhere else. And so she's telling me some things about what they're saying, bruises that Bryson had on him, some rings around his neck, some bleeding. And even what they were telling me this day is nothing compared to what we found out later. And so I asked her again, I said, what happened to my son? And she says, again, we're charging Brandon with murder. And I said, so he killed them? And she just shook her head, yes. And I start screaming. This I don't think I've ever heard myself release emotion in that way ever in my life. But I know it had to be loud because the room just seemed so dark. And the next thing I know, my mom is running in there and she's like, what's wrong? And I'm like, he killed him. He killed him. Like, Mama, why would he do that? Like, just expressing whatever came to my mind, like with no filter. And so she cried. The lady gave us a moment, and the police told me that they needed me to go into another room where they needed me to record something and to identify Brandon on, like, I guess, like the mug shots or whatever. And so, which I had never been a part of any legal process, so I didn't even know like this all happens. And the fact that they require you to do so much in the mental state that you're in, it's overwhelming. It's overwhelming. And so, and I'm gonna make this quick because this is definitely gonna be a part 2. But after we left there, so let me go back, because when we got up to go to the other room to record the video, every police officer in there, no matter what they were doing, if they were on the phone, if they were at the fax, if they were at the printer, everybody stopped moving. That's how I know how loud I was screaming in that place. Because when I walked out, it was a moment of silence from everybody. Nobody walked, nobody talked. They just stood where they were until we walked down the hallway into the recording room. We leave there. I again go back to my mom's house. I'm drinking. I'm definitely drinking. I don't want to feel none of this. I don't. I don't want to feel hurt. I don't want to feel sad. I don't want to feel confused. I'm still trying to process how the man that I was with ended up in jail and my son ended up at the morgue. And so some of those questions never really got answered until later on. But I'm going to leave with this part right here. And then we're going to pick it back up in another episode. But that night, it had to be like that night or the night after, we're watching TV and it comes on the news. Father gives 6 reasons why newborn dies, blah, 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 blah. And I can't believe it. Like, my business is out here in the street. Okay. I don't know if anybody who's watching grew up in the church. But being pregnant out of wedlock is like the most obvious thing that you was out here having the sex. Okay. So that's embarrassing enough if you grew up in that world. Because now you got to be sat down, you got to apologize to the church. It's just a whole lot of stuff. But for it to be on the news and the way the story was portrayed was that he was having this triangle. He was married. I was the side chick. I had a baby. His wife had a baby 2 weeks before my baby was born. And they found hit the baby stuff in the basement on a blow up mattress where Brandon had been sleeping. Y'all know how goofy that make me look. Like, people literally take a small portion of the story without ever asking you, like, hey, what was the deal here? They never ask you that. They just take that, and it got on the internet and people were sharing and sharing and sharing. It was like every time I would open Facebook for something, there go the ad, there go the link. And I'm like, oh my goodness, like, and people in the comments like, that's what she get. He was married. They never knew that for 3 years straight, this man literally had all the time in the world for me. That we was on the same phone plan. So if he called anybody, it came up my name. That was dumb too, though. But I'm just saying, like, the freedom that he had. I believed whatever he told me. He told me they weren't married no more. They weren't together no more. I believed it. I don't have no other excuse. I believed it. It didn't matter what anybody else said to me. I believed him. What's that saying? That's my man. I'm going to stick beside him. Mm-hmm. And so to find out now that my son is gone, the man who I was with, who had just kissed me passionately 2 days before and told me he loved me, killed him. He also was married, also had a baby that's 2 weeks older than mine, also had my baby down in the basement with a blow up mattress. My whole 3 years has been a lie. It's been a lie. Y'all, even thinking about it now, I have so many questions. I have so many questions. And it's no shade to anybody. It's no shade to his wife or any of that. It is to the point of when we allow our issues and our red flags to cover our better judgment. Looking back on it 8 years later, it's like, girl, it was so many signs. Not signs that he would have done something as traumatic as what he did, but so many signs that it was not real. You took sex, attention, words, text as meat, as something valuable, as something that was worth something, when it was nothing. It was the bare minimum. It was the bare minimum. And accepting that bare minimum, ignoring those red flags, has cost me 8 years and a lifetime of pain. There will always be that little prick right here in my heart that just can't believe it. And people said what they needed to say. I even had people who saw the link and read the story or saw it on the news, who knew me personally, grew up with me, and said, why would she let her son go with that man? As if that man was not his father. Yeah, that's the end of part 1. We're going to get back to it because there's a lot of other stuff that I need to tell y'all, but I don't want to give it all to you at one time. because it's a lot to process. So right now we are gonna take a small little break, and I want to also give the announcement because we're wrapping up here. So I want to introduce you to my oldest daughter. She is 16 now. Her name is Jayla Anderson Westbrook. She is my writer. She has written her first book, which is called Looking in the Mirror. And, she's always been a high exceller. And so after she got her book published, she decided that she wanted to create a publishing company called Unhappy Books. And I'm going to share that with y'all right now. So here it is. Unhappy Books Publishing is my daughter's LLC, a legit LLC. Let's clap it up for her real quick. It's my baby. And so she has been an inspiration to a lot of children her age, teenagers, young women, and including her mommy. And so, with that being said, my book will be out. The expected date is November, and it is going to be called Filling Voids. Filling Voids. That's where you're going to get your real tea from. Okay, it's going to talk about everything from childhood, from church to different experiences I've had, even down to, some escapades that I had, stupid, but escapades that I had. And then it's going to take you through the healing process and how we got here. So it's good that we have the podcast and we talk, but this is more for in general. But if you really want the girth to my story, you're going to have to get that book. You're going to have to get that book. So again, go ahead and like and follow each one of the pages on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Just remember, whenever you see this icon right here on your social media, know that an episode is coming. We are planning to air every Tuesday at 5 p.m. If you have any questions or anything like that, that maybe you came to mind while watching the podcast and you want to answer and you want me to answer it on one of the episodes, please feel free. You can inbox me on either one, or you can contact me here at the Bryson Holman Foundation at gmail.com. I try to be very speedy with my responses. Also, if you are interested in writing a book yourself, you want to tell your story, anything, it could be anything that you want to talk about, and you just never had the resource to writing your own book. Jayla's publishing company, Unhappy Books Publishing, has offered to give a discount using the promo code Be Healed for anyone who is interested in writing a book, and you heard about her through me. So that is going to wrap up our show for today. Please stay tuned for episode 2. I got a special guest, y'all, and we're going to go into low self-esteem. We're going to talk about it. We're going to get real. Her name is Tiffany Favors. She is an author. I've known her since I was 14, and her story is amazing. You don't want to miss it. I really feel like she has something really good to add to this conversation. I'm so glad that you guys joined me today. Y'all don't know how excited I am. I got the first episode out. Y'all, we doing this. We are doing it to the glory of God. Again, I can't wait for y'all to see more. I can't wait. I can't wait. There's so much in store. But we can't tell it all in one night. So I will see you guys later. Peace out and be healed.